You are listening to the one and only Visionaries Wrestling Network, envisioning excellence and providing your perfect podcast experience.
This is Banned from Ringside.
Tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast, we recap the Double or Nothing pay-per-view, your weekly Wednesday Night War roundup. Mike Tyson makes two appearances on Wrestling TV this week. Week 5 of our NXT TakeOver DoOver series. Tonight we're doing 2015's Unstoppable. That and a whole bunch more tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast.
Look at you.
Ooh-hoo-hoo. First try. Ditch that 9 to 5. It's time to feel alive. Hello, Mark. So welcome to the Banned from Ringside podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bill Vagey, a.k.a. Rhetoric Flair. And out there in Edwardsville, Illinois, we have Two Beer, Zach Pullman. What's going on, Two Beer?
Oh, not a lot. Just been reading a lot of Dune. Just really late to the party with that one. I think came out in 1965, so just 55 years late, but it's been pretty great.
It's been on my list for a long time because they're doing a new adaptation of it, right?
Yeah, that's actually why I dove in, because Dennis, I don't know how to say his last name, Villeneuve. Yeah, he did Blade Runner 2049, which is my favorite movie of, I think, 2017. So anyway, it's going to be awesome.
And in University City, St. Louis, we have Jason Cornelius Bell. What's going on, JCB?
Allow us to bow our heads as I read from the Banned from Ringside podcast, volume 157, chapter 3, verse 14 of the Good Smart Saying, hashtag Boo the Heels. Listen, share, subscribe, repeat. Shout out to my girl, Becky Balboa. I'll see you in a week. I love you, babe. Dune, I'm kind of tripping off of that. I've never read it, but I've seen the movie. So, I'm assuming that the movie was based off the book, yeah?
Yeah.
I think David Lynch took quite a few liberties. I've never watched that movie because I always wanted to read the book. But the movie came out in 84, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say it's an 84 movie. It's art for the 80s. The special effects is good. I like the story itself. I couldn't imagine reading the book. I don't have that much time on my hands. I shouldn't say it like that. Take that.
Says the guy who watches 12 hours of wrestling.
We are coming at you. Well, I'm coming at you from stormy South St. Louis. Lots of stuff to get to. When we started this NXT DoOver series, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. And then now every single week, it's like, holy shit, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So let's get right into it. But first, Jason, tell us about F&B Eatery.
F&B Eatery on the corner of 3453 Southampton and Marquette. Slide on through, grab a smash burger or two. Like I say every week, get with them on your social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all F&B Eatery. Support, curbside, all that good shit. I'm not going to beat a dead horse because you hear it every week. Don't meet me there, beat me there. F&B Eatery, 3453 Southampton. Tell them that Banned from Ringside sent you.
And let's get to that 3 counts.
1, 2, 3.
JCB, what's that 1 count?
Going back to Saturday nights, Double or Nothing. I'm not sure if this is the flagship pay-per-view or not. It's only been a year since AEW has been around in existence. Kind of crazy when I think about it and say it out loud, but nonetheless, let's dive into it. Biggest takeaway from me coming out of this, I'm gonna be that guy. I'm kind of over the cinematic matches. I think they're all just going to be hit or miss. I just think this one was a big-time miss. Comedy for me in wrestling, I will finally admit to the fact that it is important. Now, how much comedy goes into wrestling is where I think I don't necessarily like this particular match. It was a little too heavy-handed, a little too sports entertainment. If I wanted sports entertainment, I know where to go, and I'll leave it there. From that point, obviously, we can talk about the pay-per-view itself at any given point. Brian Cage, obviously, being, for me, the next biggest takeaway, rumored for coming over for some time, apparently was signed in January.
You called it. You called it last week. You called it exactly. You called TBA was going to be Brian Cage. I mean, you didn't pick him to win, but you did pick him third to win.
No, well, look, man, I was going to say I couldn't put the cart on that horse if the horse ain't available to be, rode on at that point. But neither here nor there.
Good metaphor.
Brian Cage is in AEW. Long time coming. It just gives them another big man on their roster. See where we go from there. Speaking of big men, Cody Lance Archer, I thought was a really good match. I think you could argue the finish. I guess you can scream nepotism or favoritism, kind of like what Cody said on Wednesday night. I get it, kind of what Two Beers said leading into predictions last week. You want to get the title off to a good start, even though I didn't necessarily like the title itself. Seemed incomplete, but neither here nor there.
They said it is incomplete. They said they're still waiting for a gold plating that got put off due to the pandemic.
I think it has some extra bevels on it too. I saw a finished product. It looks a lot better, not just with gold plating, but there's a lot of just flat silver on there right now, and it's or stainless or whatever, and it actually has a lot more ridges. It's not quite as ornate as the AEW World title, which is one of the most beautiful titles in history.
Yeah, it's totally better.
Yeah.
For me, and I'll wrap it up. Match of the night. I thought it was MJF and Jungle Boy.
Wow.
They stood out. They told the story in the ring, and I'm not saying when this is going to happen, but remember this moment, because this is going to happen 2 years, 3 years down the line, where the stakes are going to be higher. This is going to come back to play. They didn't just throw this out there just to throw it out there. They threw it out there for a reason. Remember this. This is going to come back at a later point.
Two Beer, what was your big takeaway?
I'll agree with the match of the night being MJF and Jungle Boy, and also, like Jason said, these guys have bright futures ahead of them. They're going to be top guys in this company 10 years down the road, maybe even sooner, but definitely 10 years down the road, these guys are going to be two of the guys. But yeah, I mean, I have kind of the total opposite reaction to this Stadium Stampede. I loved it. I was thoroughly sports entertained. I laughed a lot of times. I mean, just outright laughter. And that's, I totally understand kind of not always loving comedy and wrestling. It does serve its purpose. There's some really good wrestling in DDT, but DDT's it's a niche thing, and you got to really kind of like that all the time. And I don't like it all the time, but I feel like the AEW crew is so creative with their comedy, and maybe it's just my kind of comedy, I guess. Or my
it's
kind of
not
in wrestling.
It's not Vince comedy, which was the Spears Dustin match, was big time Vince comedy, pulling down the pants and everything. It was real dumb, and
it was night and day as far as comedy goes.
It really was.
I did not like that match. That match looked like
it sucked.
WWE comedy match, and it looked like it was intended to bury Shawn Spears. If it was in WWE, I would have thought Shawn Spears is buried and done, and he's never wrestling again. Instead, I just think that maybe it was his idea, and he's just been at WWE long enough that that's where he thinks, I don't know. I don't know whose idea that was. I don't know who put that together, but that was definitely the worst match of the night, by far. But I love the Stadium Stampede. It was just a lot of fun. And I think, where WWE has that whole tagline about putting smiles on people's faces, right? We're doing this so unselfishly. It's not because we're, trying to line our coffers. We're just trying to put smiles on people's faces, right? I don't think AEW is completely altruistic in this, because they're a business and they're trying to make money. But they are actually putting smiles on people's faces, for real. I really enjoyed this. Maybe it's a product of the pandemic. Who knows if they would have been this creative, right? I don't think we would have gotten the Stadium Stampede without the pandemic. And now I don't know how they're going to get away with not having another Stadium Stampede sometime. And even if they do, I don't know how they're going to top it. The real standout of this match was Sammy Guevara. There was a lot that we can talk about, but we talk about MJF and Jungle Boy. Sammy Guevara is going to be up there with those guys as top guy in this company, years down the road. Right now, he's a total geek, and it doesn't hurt him at all to be a geek. He's so good at it. But, man, just a fun event, and just want to reiterate real quick that I was right about the Cody thing. And I also love that Shoot won the title. That was good stuff.
Okay. So we gonna go there?
Go ahead.
I think I should get kudos for Brian Cage for actually pulling out a name versus just I'm just going with TBA.
Yeah, but you already. Okay. Yeah, but I already gave you the credit for it. Now you're going back and you're trying to shit on Zach's credit after I already gave for something that I already gave you credit for.
As a matter of fact, yes, I
am. This would be a perfect time. This would be a perfect time to let you know how everybody did on the predictions. Zach leading the way with 7. Jason following up closely with the 6. And I'll tell you what I thought about the pay-per-view coming up right now. I ended up with 4. I'll start off with. Well, I'll start off with the bad. The Moxley Brody Lee match was fine, but what's the point of having Brody Lee come in as the leader of the Dark Order if the Dark Order's not going to come into play in the match at all? I mean, the Dark Order sucks. They got me there. I started liking them for a week when they had those vignettes, but they haven't done anything with them, and we still don't know what they stand for. I mean, it's just a Vince parody thing now. So now just to have. It was a bad night for the big guys. Archer lost. Brody Lee lost. Nyla Rose lost. You know what I mean when I say big guys. I guess having Paige win is a big deal. But I mean, talk about not protecting your monsters, though. To have Moxley win clean and Cody win clean, even with Jake the Snake there and Brody Lee with. I know that they're anti-DQ finishes, but sometimes you need one. You got to protect the guys sometime. I think that Cody
You don't think Brody was protected?
I guess he was, but I just don't understand why you put him in that match in the first place. It seems kind of TNA-ish to me to have 2 ex-WWE guys facing each other for the title.
You want this? You want this one? You want me to jump in?
I was gonna say I think they did a really good job with the Brody Moxley match, considering what it was. And I agreed. I even said earlier, a couple weeks ago, I was like, this seems like too soon for this match. But I feel like they're just kind of thinking on their feet because of the current situation. Here I sound like Michael Cole because of the global pandemic that we're in.
Yeah.
Because he took a ton of punishment, kicked out of his finisher at 1, even after he put him through the ramp in a really cool spot and opened him up, and then he never did pinfall him. He just had to choke him out. So I thought he was really protected. I mean,
yeah, that's fair.
Archer's been brutalizing people, and like we said before, we could have gone either way with those. I don't know. I thought they were fine. I wasn't upset about those as far as I feel like they do a pretty good job of protecting. I would have been more upset with the DQ, personally, just me.
Okay, Jason, go ahead, jump in, tell me why I'm wrong.
I'm just going to say I agree with Two Beer on this one. It just the fact of the matter is that with the pandemic going on, your options are limited. So that's why I think Brody Lee comes into play. Now, I do agree with you, Bill, that the finish could have been a DQ finish where here comes the Dark Order in some form or fashion. They jump Moxley so you can extend the feud. So I get both sides. I'm not saying that the way that they did it was wrong or bad. It just took me by surprise that that's the way that they were going. That's the way they were going to finish the match.
I guess I
see both sides.
My biggest thing about Brody Lee is why do you even have him attached to the shitty Dark Order if they're not even going to come into play? I disagree with both you guys about the MJF Jungle Boy match. It was good. I'm not going to say it was good. I don't know if it was my match of the night. There were certain points in the first half of that match which almost went 20 minutes where I was thinking to myself, these guys still look kind of green. Like, they can pull off some good shit, and they were telling a good story, no doubt about it. But it looked to me like it was the first time we've seen those two young bucks, no pun intended, those two young bucks in the ring together. And there were parts where it looked very methodical and very kind of tough enough-ish. I did like the finish. I like both those guys a lot. It just wasn't my match of the night. I thought the Stadium Stampede fucking ruled, man. I thought it was... I'm not sick. If they're gonna, I'm not sick of the cinematic matches yet because it seems like they're getting better at them. And this one, I mean, the four big cinematic matches that we are talking about, right? It's the Firefly Funhouse one or whatever it was called. What was it called?
Yeah,
You said it.
The Boneyard match, the Ciampa Gargano match, and now this one.
And Money in the Bank.
Oh yeah, Money in the Bank was the worst. Money in the Bank was the worst.
By far.
I thought this was the best one. It had a bunch of fun spots. The ending spot with the One Wing Angel, I mean, I know that they landed on a crash pad, but that is a hell of a visual.
Oh yeah, Stevie Wonder could see that. I'll be the first to admit that. When they did that, I was like, "Oh hell no! Where the fuck?" Okay, yep,
Also,
there it is.
come
All
on.
right, this should be it.
Hangman Page on a horse is just so. I mean, if you're gonna go over the top, go over the top, and they went so over the top. And if anybody hasn't heard it yet, you can find it on YouTube. Do yourself a favor and listen to the 25-minute rant of Jim Cornette talking about why he hated this match so much. It is hilarious. I mean, you talk about going over the top. This motherfucker is leaning into his old man yells at cloud persona now. He said he's I don't want to ruin anything, but you should really watch it. He says how he feels betrayed by all these guys, that he knows that this ain't wrestling, that he's never watching AEW again, all sorts of shit. Let's see how long that lasts. But also, I thought the ladder match was really good, too. A lot of cool spots. One terribly stupid spot that I'm not even going to bring up because you guys just think that I'm harping on your boy too much. But overall, I'd give it a solid B. I mean, at a time when you need to be taking risks, and I think this is what Zach said last week, at a time when you need to be taking risks, and a time when you need to be trying new things, they tried... The Stadium Stampede was trying a new thing, and I thought ultimately it was a success. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, dude! Whenever Chris Jericho brought Aubrey Edwards, challenged the play. Oh my god!
Oh,
dying.
When Hangman Page was doing the chalk line, he went over top of Jericho. It was so stupid. It was so stupid. But that's kind of why I watch wrestling.
And that's where, I guess, like, the Naked Gun to me is slapstick. And that's probably where the line for me is. It's funny enough to where it's not too over the top. O.J. Simpson flipping down the railing, yeah, that's over the top. But it's in bits and pieces. This started over the top from the jump. It never gradually led me into that point. And that's my only problem with it.
O.J. Simpson.
Each his own.
I was just thinking.
It was way over the top.
I was just thinking about when O.J. Simpson falls off the stadium and they look down there. Or no, that was Ricardo Montalban, and they're like, "That's all right, he'll be fine." And then the bulldozer runs over him. If you guys haven't watched Naked Gun in a while, it holds up. Any last thoughts on this pay-per-view? I mean, I thought it was really good. Best friends are the number one contenders. Britt Baker didn't compete, so Chris Statlander got that win. That about covers it, unless there's anything else that you want to talk about.
I'll give props to Nyla Rose and Sheeta. I thought that was a really good DQ match.
Yes.
I think they got that right overall. Yeah, I agree with you, Bill. I was leaning B- when I left Saturday night. I watched it again. I'll give it a B. I mean, you can nitpick it at you if you want to, but I've definitely sat through worse three and a half, 4 hour shows, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, way worse. Way worse. Zach, you want to give it a grade before we move on?
I'll give it a B+, maybe even an A-.
There we go. All right, and that'll bring us to our 2 counts.
1, 2, 3.
All right, 2 Beer, what you got?
All right, so we have our kind of weekly Wednesday Night War recap. We had probably the biggest takeaway. There's a lot of stuff that happens these days where you just wish there was fans in the building. And the thing that happened this week where you really wish there was fans in the building, we had Broken Matt Hardy and the Young Bucks versus Joey Janela and Private Party to open it up. And it was really funny because Young Bucks made Matt Hardy go through a couple wardrobe changes before they finally decided on like early 90s Matt Hardy to accompany them to the ring. And they had their match. I believe there was an angle. At first I thought that dude was actually hurt, but one of the Private Party guys was an angle where he was hurt, and then after the match Matt Hardy helps him out, and that leaves the Young Bucks in the ring to get attacked by Butcher and Blade, who then get attacked by none other than FTR, which is Cash Wheeler and Dax. What is it? Dax
Hardwood?
Woodson? Hardwood. Yeah, Dax Hardwood, Cash Wheeler, which totally do not sound like porn names at all.
Not at all. Not like we would know or anything.
They help the Young Bucks, but still at the same time, it seems like they're setting up for the Young Bucks. Obviously going to be the dream feud. I mean, AEW has arguably the most stacked tag team roster that I've probably ever seen. Right? If you're not talking some of the Japanese stuff can be really great because they throw stablemates together, but as far as just true tag teams, I mean, this is pretty great.
Might be too stacked.
Yeah, I know, right?
Let's let it play itself out first. Shit. I'm gonna be a little greedy about this one because I like tag team wrestling, and I don't get to see it enough on that other show that we can talk about here in a second. But for me, yeah, I'm all for it. The more tag teams, the better. Line them up. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'm excited.
What does FTR stand for? Fear the Revival?
I think it originally was Fuck the Revival, and then it became Free the Revival whenever they wanted out of their contracts. I have no idea what it stands for now.
I was getting ready to say that's what my interpretation. FTR came from the Young Bucks as far as I was concerned, and they started with Fuck the Revival. Anybody that hated the Revival or loved the Bucks, that's how the hashtag ran off. And then, like Two Beer said, when they wanted to get out of the contract, people like me meant it as Free the Revival. But please, go ahead.
Then we had a cool promo from Taz. Brian Cage came out, did a squash match while John Moxley watched as the voyeuristic announcer.
Oh, yeah.
Really good.
Let me ask you, what do you think about them teaming Brian Cage with Taz?
I mean, Taz is great at that. So as long as he's not Brian Cage's Paul Heyman and Brock, Brian Cage never talks, then I feel like that would be kind of a bummer. I feel like, maybe let Brian Cage talk some, but Taz is great at it. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Jason.
I was going to say, I love it personally. I mean, Brian Cage isn't, the greatest talker in the world. So you're taking away, hiding his strength, like Heyman says, and, placing it with, or hiding his weakness, replacing it with a strength, and that's Taz. Taz can talk. He made me legitimately okay, when does Fyter Fest happen? Because now I want to see this match by the time that match in the segment was over. So, I mean, for me, I love it because I love managers. So, I mean, this is right up my alley. You're just playing into Taz's strength and hiding Brian Cage's one of his supposed weaknesses.
I agree. I love Taz being on TV. I like him in an announcer role. I've always been a Taz fan, so I'm cool with it. Also in interviews, he's always been super cool.
he's great on the announce team too, because he brings that wrestler's aspect, that kayfabe aspect, and he really breaks down the moves. Like, he's great with Excalibur. Like, Dark can be kind of mediocre, but like the fact that they're the pair that does the announcing makes it worth watching like every time.
Yeah.
Even though I don't watch it every time.
Right.
But after that, Britt Baker updated her status. Like, she's got a pretty bad injury. This segment was awesome. And if you would have asked me, like, you know, last year, whenever this thing started, if I would have liked Britt Baker as much as I do now, I would have said no, because for all the reasons that I didn't initially think that I was going to like her, she took all of that and she took the disdain for her character and she turned it into the perfect heel character. She is so good at this now, like, so good. I look forward to her segments like every week, and I hope that she comes out in her stupid role model, ROLL model wheelchair every week.
So good.
And talks to Tony Schiavone about this. Like, I just, I loved it.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. The Britt Baker heel turn is probably the best thing that happened to her. The worst thing that happened to her, unfortunately, is that she got hurt again.
Yeah, she straight up, like, accuses Aubrey Edwards of being in a conspiracy because every time she gets hurt, Aubrey Edwards is in the ring.
She's good.
I was like, okay. Yeah, that was good. And when she was like, you know, bringing out the board and, you know, it was like a police crime, you know, who done it, you know, we're connecting the dots type shit, and it was all over the place. Britt Baker has been served well with this heel turn. And I know fans scream, you know, he needs a heel turn, she needs a face turn. This was one that was kind of needed and has been done so well up to this point.
For sure. We had a women's match, the new champion Hikaru Shida versus a new AEW signing, Christy James, who looked really good.
A little bit more competitive than I thought it was going to be.
Me too, man. Like, that's exactly what I was thinking, because I was not.
Christy James looked good, but like Alan Angels when he wrestled Kenny Omega, to me it was the same thing. You know, Shida went over because she should. She's the champ, but Christy James got herself over, and she made me was like, okay, you know, when are we going to see this one again? At some point, I'm sure on Dark, but you know, I want to see more of her as we go along.
Yeah, me too. I want to see more of her, just generally speaking.
See, you ain't sure.
But I mean, that's her character.
He's red-blooded. He's a red-blooded American male.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a mower. There's literally a dude on a lawnmower driving by my house right now, like just on the road. So that's what that is.
So many jokes, so little time.
Welcome to Illinois.
Yeah. Cody issues an open challenge, compares himself to Tom Brady.
I like that.
Humbly, you know.
I mean, that is
a good analogy.
That is the argument for putting the belt on Cody, which I want to say that if you go back to last week's pod, I knew that Cody was going to win. I just had to stick with Lance Archer, because then if Lance Archer won and I went away from it, then I wouldn't get any credit for it. But now I want credit for both.
Wow.
Because I knew Cody was going to win.
So we're backdooring credit now? I mean, is that what we're doing?
I'm just saying, if you guys are taking credit for all sorts of shit, then I'm going to take some credit by agreeing with Zach. So give me some credit. But yeah, the argument against it is, or the argument for Cody having the belt, is that he can do something like this, and it'll be a weekly cool thing to do with the open challenge.
Now, I was going to. Sorry, Javier, I'll jump in real quick. I piggyback that sentiment totally. And then when you have Jungle Boy winning the Battle Royal, sorry to jump ahead, it sets up the precedent of it's not going to always be, you know, the top name guys. This is a mid-card title, so the mid-card guys should get the crack at it. MJF, I'm sorry, I know he's undefeated, but unless you just want to go down that road again, I don't even think he needs to be even sniffing this title. It should be world title or bust for MJF, whether it's Moxley, Brian Cage, or whoever the case may be. But yeah, I love the open challenge, and especially if Cody's doing it, it's perfect.
Right on. Yeah. After that, we had the number one contender tag match, SCU versus Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. All we really have to say about that, I think, is just that Sabian and Jimmy Havoc has a cool new suit that's totally white and looks like it's splattered with blood like that. They're going to be the number one contenders, so we get a new, fresh tag match for the championships. So that should be fun.
Now, wait a minute. I thought that the Best Friends won Saturday night to make them number one contenders.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, they're going to either get it at Fyter Fest or somewhere down the line. Wednesday night, they said whoever won that particular match was going to get the title match next week.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
It's the same deal because we later on in the show we have a battle royale for number one contendership of the TNT title, even though Cody has an open challenge every week. So I think it's kind of like, one's at the pay-per-view, one's just like sometime. Like you're just guaranteed a shot. Like I don't know if it's like one. I don't know who gets it before the other. That is not clear at all. But
gotcha.
I guess they could have done a little bit of better job with that.
Well, no, I'll just say this. To me, let's just be clear. A battle royal is a battle royal, whether it's in AEW, WWE, New Japan, whatever the case may be. In this case, to me, open challenge means after next week, which we already know who it is, 2 weeks from now, I expect Cody Rhodes to march down the ring, be in the center of the ring, say whatever he wants to say, open door challenge, and then somebody comes out. That to me is what the open challenge is.
Right on. Yeah. So speaking of which, we had the Battle Royal where, I thought this was a Battle Royal. It was fine in my opinion, but I really thought it was interesting because I wanted Jungle Boy to win Saturday because I feel like he kind of needs a jump start, and the Battle Royal win just seems like it's setting him up to lose. Even though I don't think a loss to Cody hurts him or anything, I just feel like he needs more than like a Battle Royal win.
He was kind of protected in that loss to MJF though. Also, I mean, because it was just a quick roll up.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. But I really thought that they should have, even though I liked the interaction between Orange Cassidy and Jungle Boy, I really thought that Orange Cassidy should have won completely without eliminating anybody, just by like being in there, and then two people eliminate each other at the end, and he's like the only one standing. So I thought that would have told like a way better story and been a lot more fun. That's just me.
Going back to Double or Nothing just for a second, because I wanted to say this and I forgot. As an Orange Cassidy fan, in that ladder match, it was just a little too cute for me. Just a little too cute. Like not being able to, like not knowing how to set up a ladder. Like I know he's laid back, but he's not fucking dumb. Is he?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, come on, just standing on the ladder on its side. Come on, that was so dumb.
I'm not going to sit up here and push back on that.
Thank you.
Looked at it too. It was kind of like, okay, I kind of have a little problem with this. It felt like they were playing him for stupid, so I can't say I disagree with that.
Yeah, just have him like walk up the ladder like super slow, like kind of make fun, like make fun of how everybody does that anyway. Like everybody gets to the ladder in a ladder match and forgets how to climb it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm saying.
And then we have the Inner Circle Pep Rally, which was hilarious because just like any Super Bowl, Stadium Stampede, whatever, you have T-shirts where they have, 10,000 T-shirts of the losers, right? And just so many sight gags, and I feel like the Inner Circle really shines at this comedy stuff. They're a legit badass stable. Every single one of these people is a completely competent upper elite athlete, right? And at the same time, they're total dipshits, and they manage to play that balance so well. And so Jericho calls out Mike Tyson for something that he did on January 11th of 2010 on a Monday night, which I was not watching then, so maybe Jason can enlighten us or Bill can enlighten us.
Yeah, I was watching.
So what happened on?
Now I don't remember. I don't remember what happened.
Yeah, I would have to go back and think about it. If I'm not mistaken, that could have been January 11th, 2010. So that was the year.
I mean,
I think that was the year that I went to WrestleMania, so that might have been a build to either the Royal Rumble, which probably happened 2 weeks after, if my math serves me right, because Royal Rumble is usually the last weekend of January.
Who did Jericho fight at the WrestleMania that you were at?
Edge.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
so I mean, that's my guess.
I think that's also the same year that Swagger cashed in the Money in the Bank on Jericho. But
yeah, because he won the Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, and then I think it was on a SmackDown, randomly cashed it in.
It was. Jinder Mahal ruined it for me one night. He spoiled it for me. I had it DVR'd back at home, and Jinder Mahal walks into the bar and tells me exactly what happens. Oh, man, did you hear Jericho? Did you hear Jericho lost to Swagger? That was in Jericho's suit days. Anyway.
Dude, I know you were pissed.
Anyway, it was the first segment of SmackDown, too. Sorry, Zach.
This was exactly nearly the same angle from, what was it, like 1997 with Steve Austin and Mike Tyson.
Yes.
Just Mike Tyson looking like he's having the time of his life, being very, very bad at what he's doing.
Very
bad. It does not matter because he's Mike Tyson, and that's all that matters. But yeah, they did the pull apart, and Tyson came out with some dudes. Some of them were like famous MMA fighters. Like Cejudo and these guys.
Belfort and Evans.
Yeah, that's who that was. Victor Belfort.
Yeah, Rashad Evans. And then there's like this weird dude with like face paint on who's like totally trying to steal the spotlight the entire time.
He was, man. You ain't gonna steal the spotlight standing in the ring with Tyson.
Yeah, amongst other people. Yeah, I was just getting ready to say there's two or three other stars, maybe not as big as Mike Tyson, but yeah, you're not going to be able to steal the spotlight at this point.
But, I briefly got on Twitter, which I do not do nearly as much as I used to, and I saw a lot of people shitting on this because, it was not the best angle I ever saw by any means, and a lot of people shitting on it because they say, oh, if WWE did this, you'd be shitting on it, right? And WWE did do this, and it was a hot angle. Like I just said, it was 23
years ago, though.
Yeah, they did do this, and I'm just saying, like, AEW, this is not for us, right? This is the argument that I'm making. Like, this angle is not for us. This angle is to get them on SportsCenter and to get them in the, mainstream media so that we can add, another couple 100,000 of non-wrestling fans to that weekly number that has been the same, good, but the same, like, every week of Dynamite, right? So this is not like, of course we don't really care about seeing Mike Tyson versus Chris Jericho, but there might be 500,000 to 1 million people that want to tune in that otherwise would not, and that's good for business, and that's good for us, and that's good for AEW.
Especially with no sports. I'm fine with it. Also, I just don't want to lose sight of how bad of a segment it was once Tyson and his boys got in there. Like, it was like, it might be fun for non-wrestling fans to watch, but for smarks, I was like, all right, yeah, I get it. I know exactly what's going to happen here. Just let's move along to the next thing. Jason, what did you think when the baddest man on the planet got into the ring with
it was, well, I mean, you
with the Y2J
on Saturday night, he seems out of place, even when he was, dealing with Austin back,
Two Beers right, though. It looks like he's having the time of his life.
Oh, and God bless him for it. I am not mad at him for it. Somewhere there is a wrestling fan, big, small, somewhere in the middle, that is making him have a good-ass time at this. However, he's just not natural.
No, he's not.
It's hard to watch.
He has the look on his face like I have all the time, like I had when I was watching the Stadium Stampede match. Like, I was just kind of laughing the whole time. I was like, God damn, this is funny. Like, even Saturday night watching the Cody...
Go ahead.
Even Saturday night when he was watching the Cody match, like, he was just kind of laughing the whole time. Like, look at these goofballs, man, fake fighting.
He's trying to tear the shirt, and it's not coming out. That's why I was just like, oh, stop, please, for the love of God, please end this. And then finally, it started to break down, which I'm not going to shit on it. It's WWE. I totally get it. Like Two Beer said, it's just not meant for me. The rest of the show pretty much was. This was meant for everybody else.
Like, there's a reason why up and coming promotions like WCW back in the day, like TNA, there's a reason why they do certain things. There's a reason why they bring in celebrities. There's a reason why they try to pop the ratings with, shit like this. It's because it probably works. The trick is in keeping those eyes locked on your product after Mike Tyson goes back to, jail or wherever he came from.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys remember,
I'm kidding.
Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone?
I do. Jay Leno. Jay Leno
even. I think the Dennis Rodman Karl Malone thing was the highest rating that Nitro ever got, and it was a replay from the night before. That's how much this shit works. So whatever. Tune out for half an hour if you don't like it. But
right.
I'm not going to shit on them trying to make money.
All right, let's keep it moving to NXT.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on AEW, and I think that show was worth it because it was a really good show. Unfortunately, I do not think that NXT is worth spending a ton of time unless you just want to complain about some stuff, which I definitely can.
Wow.
We can just start right out because it was the first match.
Wow. God.
We had the three-way that was set up kind of stupidly last week. Anyway,
He's heating up!
Kushida versus Drake Maverick versus Jake Atlas with one of the dumbest finishes I've ever seen in my entire life. This is what started the show. This match shouldn't even be happening anyway. And they do a bunch of moves. Kushida puts in his arm bar, and he has his legs on top, like he always does with his arm bar. And Jake Atlas's shoulders are on the mat. And then Drake Maverick decides to throw an arm over Atlas in a pinning situation, but actually, wouldn't Kushida already be pinning him with his legs anyway before that? And so the referee, instead of recognizing the tap that Jake Atlas gives, then counts 3, and Drake Maverick wins this thing. If you want Drake Maverick to win it, I could think of 973 million better finishes than this one. I hated it. It was dumb. Anybody want to defend it? Be my guest. I won't spend any more time.
It didn't make me upset. I just didn't know that Two Beer Zach Pullman handed off his phone to Jim Cornette. But we can move on to the next part.
No, man, no. I ain't gonna be as strong, but I agree with Two Beer on this one.
I was watching it. I was watching it while I was, at work. It was on in the background. It didn't. I guess if I would have been paying closer attention to it, it might have bothered me. But whatever. They're telling a bigger story with Drake Maverick. Okay,
and that's fine. But then don't do it like this, because now, as a smart, I guess, since we're being labeled this afternoon, I'm looking at it like Two Beer just said it. Not only is he in a submission, but his shoulders are down. If you're counting for anybody, it probably should be for Kushida first, as Drake Maverick puts his arm on. If you want to, I agree with Two Beer. If you want to have Drake over, do it. That's fine. He had an injury coming into the match. Work off of that. Have him overcome the odds, because that's the story we're laying. Have him do it one more time. Don't do it like that.
All right, let's keep it moving.
Yeah, keep moving. We had a squash match, Johnny Gargano versus Adrian Alanis, which is an interesting name. That's all I'll say about that. Some bad comedy. I'm even saying that as a huge Gargano mark. Then we had another mediocre match, Shotzi Blackheart versus Raquel Gonzalez. I like Shotzi. We didn't talk about her vignette the week before, which was so over the top and ridiculous, but at least now we know who Shotzi Blackheart is. She told us for 5 minutes. She just told us her whole life story. My dad was a motorcycle riding badass. Went on and on, and I'm like, all right, cool. At least I know who Shotzi Blackheart is now. But this was a very whatever match. Not really much to say. Gonzalez defeated her, so there's that. And then we had another thing that I just really didn't like. If you look at this on paper, Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai versus Charlotte Flair and Chelsea Green. Looking at that on paper, you'd be like, oh, Chelsea Green's in there to take the pin, right? Because we got this whole triple threat scenario. Like, she's the odd person out. They also beat her in her debut. So, I mean, what's special about her? Nothing. She should take the pin. But no, instead, she pins Io Shirai. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. This whole, like, thing about Charlotte Flair even taking the title from Rhea in the first place doesn't make sense to me, and it's just not getting any better. I don't like it. I'm sorry.
He's heating up.
Then we had Adam Cole facing down Velveteen Dream at NXT TakeOver in Your House. I do like the branding for TakeOver. In Your House is very apropos. I do not think that Velveteen Dream should win this title.
Fuck no. I did like.
Really?
No. He's not.
He's been exposed, man.
He's been exposed.
Fans has exposed him. He needs fans.
Oh, I totally agree with Zach 100%. Adam Cole should hang on to this.
Wow. Okay, I'll let you finish, and then I want to go back to this because that's crazy.
Well, I like Velveteen Dream a lot. I wouldn't put the biggest belt in the promotion on him right now. In promotion, I mean NXT.
Okay, so
I agree with Zach. I think he's been exposed.
Again.
I don't think he's nearly as good as. I mean, he suffers without fans, much like Orange Cassidy does. It's not as much fun without fans.
I don't know. I just think it just feels like it's set up for him, especially with the step added onto it.
You think he should win?
I think it's just set up for him to win it. And if he does it, then it's like it's almost a step back. It's a hit on his career path. It's not the end of the world by any stretch.
If Hunter slid into your DMs and said, who would you have go over in this match? You would pick Dream?
Okay. The way they programmed us, it feels like this should be Velveteen Dream's match to win.
I ain't been programmed, bro. I'm my own man. Do not talk to me like that.
You know what the fuck I'm talking about. If it was up to me, yeah, I'll ride Adam Cole until the wheels fall off, because as it stands right now, he is the face of NXT. You have built him up as such, so whoever it is that beats him to end this long reigning NXT run, it should be somebody that you're going to attach the cart to and let that horse run for a little bit, because you just can't give that. Whoever gets this rub can't lose it anytime soon. So it has to be somebody that's going to be the champion for a while.
I think they are also really desiring a NXT champion that is homegrown, because all their other champions, like their best champions, have been outsiders and had like good careers before they came into NXT, right? They were top guys in ROH and elsewhere. So I can see why they would want to do it, but I think he's just it's too early for him, and he's just, like I said, he's just exposed. Like, he needs a crowd pop when he wins that title, and it shouldn't happen now.
Yeah, I agree with Zach. I agree with Zach 100%. Last thing I'll say about this segment is I do like William Regal as a GM, and I wish that he took part in more stories. Like, I appreciate that he's not there all the time, but when we get to the TakeOver DoOver, Regal, I mean, when Regal gets involved, Regal is great, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah, he's really good.
Let's go ahead.
We just had a squash match with Ciampa. So, DIY got their squash match going on separately. And then we had the main event, Matt Riddle versus Timothy Thatcher, and a cage fight, like a MMA cage fight, submission or knockout only, with Kurt Angle as the referee.
Did you like it?
Thatcher, yes and no. I love the gimmick match. I think that they should have gone a little bit more shoot style, because I can guarantee you that Matt Riddle never once in UFC ran at his opponent so hard and so fast that his opponent moved out of the way and he ran into the cage, let alone once, but twice in a match.
Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen very often.
No. So it was just that part was, I just wish they would have really went out there and totally shot style. But Thatcher won, which was, kind of surprising. But then we heard that Riddle's going to SmackDown. So not so surprising.
Mm-mm.
Did they say that on the show?
No. I don't even think they had decided that until probably that day. Who knows?
That's new to me.
Somebody had said that to me, I guess, last Friday when I was watching SmackDown. So I think I knew this coming in. It just didn't dawn on to me until last night when I watched it. I guess my biggest takeaway from this is obviously Cole versus Dream one more time. I don't know. It's like I said, it's not the end of the road for Dream if he loses, but it's definitely a pothole, dare I say. The women's match to me was the biggest disappointment of the whole night. It's so convoluted. You started off with really 3 women. By the end, it was like 5 women down there. And it was just so many moving parts where it started to take away from the physical match at certain points, especially at the end. I like Dakota Kai, but I don't need to see her riding in Shotzi Blackheart's tank. I mean, come on, that's main roster shit. I expect a little more from NXT. So I've got to give them a knock on that. Outside of that, I mean, NXT was fine. It wasn't anything, terrible or anything like that. It feels like they're just treading water, trying to figure out their next move. And some of these matches kind of reflect it.
I enjoyed Thatcher Riddle. And I thought Angle got released, but whatever.
I didn't want to just say that, but I agree with
release.
Who? I mean, I don't really care.
Yeah, magically he's now in NXT. I'll just say this: I agree with Tugir on the whole shoot thing. That's what I kind of expected. I wasn't sure what kind of structure we were going to have. The structure itself was cool because you had kind of like an elimination chamber kind of deal where you could fight on a second level. Kind of like they fight on top of the pods, but it went the length of the ring. So that part was cool. I wish it was a little more shoot style. Outside of that, I mean, Riddle going to SmackDown. Cross your fingers, Matt Riddle. That's all I can say on that.
A little peek behind the curtain here at the podcast. Sometimes I'm looking at a timer here because we're in a pandemic, and my wife and I, because Jason can't come over to my house, have to share a computer. And I text these guys, and I tell them what our end time is. And these guys just keep fucking talking. Jesus Christ.
Well, thankfully our takeover sucks, so we don't have to spend a lot of time on it.
Let's get to that 3 count. 1, 2, 3. Just joshing around, guys. Just joshing around. Okay, so we're talking about NXT. Third count is NXT Unstoppable, the 5th edition of our Takeover Do-Over, where we're going back over all the takeovers and trying to determine which actually is the best takeover because there's been so many good ones. This one, NXT Unstoppable, was recorded on May the 20th of 2015, so almost 5 years to the day. It opened up the main event once again was Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. Samoa Joe makes his NXT debut, which was probably the biggest news of the pay-per-view, but it opened up with a number 1 contenders match that was Tyler Breeze versus Finn. What's his name?
Finn Balor?
Yeah, Finn Balor. Yeah, so Finn Balor versus Tyler Breeze. I was trying to think of Boogeyman. I was going to call him Finn Boogeyman, but I fucked up because I had a couple Bush.
Demon, you moron.
What'd you say?
The Demon, if you want to make fun of him.
Oh, you didn't like it? You didn't like it when I said that you went too long in that last segment, did you? Let's just hash it out right here on the pod, dude. Let's just hash it out right here on the pod.
You the quarterback, baby. That's what I say. I'm sorry. I ran my own routes out there. I'll start.
Run the routes that the coach calls.
Yes, sir.
All right, so don't do that, please. Especially not this week. Tyler Breeze versus Finn Balor for a number 1 contenders match. Finn Balor won. The Demon all this match really made me do was think, really, Tyler Breeze was really good at what he did. And he was a good pest heel, and Finn Balor went over. But that being said, I enjoyed this match quite a bit. I'm giving it 3 stars.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is kind of the reason why I like going back and watching these matches, because I look at Tyler Breeze, and I keep saying it. I'm not saying that he probably could have been champion. I'm not saying he should have been champion, but if there was a mid-card title, that was Tyler Breeze written all over it. I mean, he just has consistently good matches time after time. Another good match with Finn Balor. I agree, 3 stars.
He sounds like a motherfucker. Two Beer, what you got?
I'm worried that our barometers here are just a little bit too in tune. We're like 3 ladies living in the same house. It's like cycles just get
periods are syncing up.
Yeah, it's, right down to the period decimal point. I had 3 stars for this bad boy.
It was good though, right? I mean, Tyler Breeze.
Yeah, it was a good curtain jerker. It was
for sure. Next up, we had Dana Brooke and Emma. God damn, Emma. Versus, I mean that as a worker, and Charlotte Flair. Dana Brooke and Emma versus Charlotte Flair and Bayley in kind of a, I don't know, no-nothing tag match. I mean, this isn't
a TV match.
Huh?
So this is like a TV match.
It's a TV match. It didn't really register for me. I give it 1.25 stars.
I can't say I disagree too much. It sets up what's going to happen down the line, if I'm not mistaken. I think I know what the next big match is, but I'll save that for next week. It's a match, and it wasn't even a good match. I gave it 1.5 stars.
All right, and Two Beer.
Yep, I had 1.5 stars. I liked the end where Bayley and Charlotte did each other's gimmicks. Like, that was pretty fun. That was after the match in and of itself. That tells you something about the match, and that was my favorite part. Whenever Bayley did the strut and Charlotte did like the hands up thing. So
next up, we have Rhino versus the one, the only Baron Corbin. I'll let somebody else go first because I think I should probably go last on this one.
I'll go. Baron Corbin. I mean, still over.
Over as shit. Just so
it
over.
blows me away how over he is, and this is why I have so much pushback when I say that I'm not a Baron Corbin guy. Nonetheless, once again, it was a match, not even a good match, 2 stars.
Two Beer.
Yeah, I gave this exactly 2 stars as well. Like, Rhino kind of carried this thing through. There was a couple snafus that he righted, with like some good instincts. Obviously, the veteran in this scenario, but yeah, it was underwhelming.
Maybe I'm being generous. I quite like this match a lot. I thought that Rhino and Corbin had really good chemistry together. I thought that Corbin was impressive, giving Rhino the end of days, the most protected finisher in the WWE. And even though it was only about 7 minutes long, I had a blast. I thought that you guys would go lower, but I had 2.5 written down. I enjoyed the match. I enjoy Baron Corbin, though, a lot more than you guys do. Coming up next, we had Murphy and Blake, who I just realized. I knew he was in the Forgotten Sons, but I just realized who he looked like when I watched SmackDown this week, which he looks like Haley Joel Osment. But it was Murphy and Blake versus Enzo and Cass. And I want to ask you guys, did you feel any kind of nostalgia when you watched Enzo and Cass come out and do their intro?
I felt amazement at how over they were, and it wasn't, I wouldn't say nostalgia in the sense that, I wish they were still around, but I did appreciate that, and I did remember it, and it's
a fun intro.
It's a fun act. And
yes.
I think unfortunately, because of everything that's happened with both of them, it's harder to look back on it fondly, but they were stars, absolute
big time
stars.
Yes. Jason, did you feel what did you feel seeing Enzo and Cass's intro for the first time in probably 2 years? Right?
It's been a minute. Yeah, I was thinking, wow, I won't say they missed the boat, but how did these guys not become champions, especially on NXT?
Yeah, they even lost this match.
If Baron Corbin is over, these guys were on that same level. Crowd is singing along. They know the words. I'm not saying that they need to be great in the ring, but in this case, they have the one thing that most teams, people, they look to get over. They look to have the crowd get invested. And they were fucking over. How they lost this match. This was the match that I look back again, and I'm still surprised they lost this match. 2.5 stars. Fun at the beginning, kind of wonky finish. It was okay. I mean,
here comes Lawnmower Man again, guys.
Okay, I'm going to say this, that I'm happy that Jason said that they were over and it doesn't even matter how good they are in the ring, because, fellas, they are not good in the ring. 1.75 stars. I loved seeing their entrance, though. They really had, there's only 2 entrances like that in the history of the WWE, and it's them and the New Age Outlaws. That's it. Nobody else.
That's good company to have.
It really is. Nobody else has an entrance that the entire crowd talks along to. You know what I mean?
Maybe New Day, but it's shorter.
Yeah, you're right. New Day. Yeah, you're right. Fair enough. What do you give it, Zach?
Your point is taken.
What do you give it, Zach?
I gave it 2 stars, and I was a little bit more generous which is not much more generous, but yeah, the entrance, I think, bumped it up a little bit. And Corey Graves talking about how hot Carmella was, which was hilarious. What happened?
Sure.
I was about to say, that didn't go over my head at all. That was great.
All right, up next for the Women's Championship in NXT, it was the first one-on-one match in the takeover of Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. Sasha Banks won in a submission with the Banks statement. This was a good match. I gave it 3 stars.
No, I agree. This was when Becky wasn't Becky. You know what I mean? For the man, this was Becky in almost kind of a heelish role a little bit. I know Becky takes a lot of knocks because, quote unquote, she can't wrestle. Sasha, quote unquote, botches moves. I don't think this was the case in this match. I thought that they did well off of each other. They played well off of each other, and it came out to being this match that we got in front of us. 3.5. I didn't say 3.5. 3.25 stars. I apologize. Good, not great.
What you got, Zach?
I was actually way more generous than you guys. I thought this was it was the best match on the show, and I thought it was it was one of the better Becky matches that I've seen. I gave it 4 stars.
There we go. And finally, the main event, which ended in a no contest. We have the rematch of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. The final, I believe, title match that these two will have. It seems like with TKO in the first match and a no contest in the second match, it seems like they were building towards something that never happened, unless it happened on NXT The Show and didn't happen on the TakeOver, which I guess is possible. This match wasn't very long, 13 minutes. It was great storytelling. Once again, tremendous storytelling, as you would expect between these two. I loved it when Regal came in and grabbed Owens' nose from behind and peeled his head back. But I still only gave it 3.25 stars, which I think is all you can do with 13 minutes and a no contest. 2 beer.
Yeah, I actually gave it 3.5. Just bumped it up a little bit for the storytelling. But yeah, that's exactly it. They were limited because this is where Sammy went and got his shoulder surgery.
Right.
So that's why the match was short. And incidentally, it's also Hideo Itami got shoulder surgery at the same time. So
yeah, it was supposed to be a triple threat.
Here we go.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a triple threat match.
they worked with what they had, and these guys are both phenomenal, but it does not necessarily live up to like a TakeOver main event. Fortunately, Samoa Joe's debut kind of saved the day because the fans were into it.
What you got, Jason?
3.5 as well. Samoa Joe kind of saves the day. I totally forgot the fact that Sami Zayn was supposed to get shoulder surgery too. Obviously, they said about Hideo Itami because he was physically out of the match, but I totally forgot Sammy's supposed to be having surgery as well. So, yeah, all things considered, especially with the no contest, you can't get too crazy with this. So I gave it 3.5.
Pretty cool seeing Samoa Joe make his NXT debut. The crowd was hot as fuck for him. He looked great. I thought it was also cool right before I think it was before the Enzo and Cass match when they were interviewing KO before the show, that KO went to Raw in between pay-per-views, in between takeovers, and confronted Cena and pop-up powerbombed him and then grabbed both belts.
Stepped on the title.
Stepped on the title.
That was awesome.
It
and
was.
If you remember, that was his debut. He actually beat Cena. So I mean, it was really good storytelling from those guys. That's phenomenal. Time period.
Yes, it is a phenomenal time period, and KO is a phenomenal performer. So if you guys are going to give this a grade, I mean, this wasn't as good as last week's. So I think right now we're all in agreement that last week's was the best takeover that we've seen thus far. Correct?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all we really have to do. That's going to do it for our 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
Before we get to our RIPs and our birthdays, just a few hangers on here, a few odds and ends. Apollo Crews wins the U.S. title from Andrade. Any thoughts on that? I mean, I love Apollo Crews. I think he's so athletic. He's as the happy-go-lucky babyface black guy. Everybody's seen that before, but goddamn, that guy is athletic, man.
He's good, man.
He's awesome. I love him.
I agree. Apollo Crews is extremely athletic. Kind of, feel bad for Andrade a smidge just because his reign as U.S. champion won't be remembered for much, if anything at all.
It seems like he'll have a bright future, though. I like the MVP Lashley pairing. Even if they're just setting up Lashley to lose the McIntyre, it's a pretty strong pairing, and I like that MVP has found a role in 2020 WWE because MVP can be a valuable guy and can be money. I put this on Twitter the other day. I saw Lana next to MVP, and Jason told me that she had too much bronzer. It looks to me like they're trying to make Lana look black.
You're saying intentionally. They're trying to...
I'm saying they're intentionally trying to make Lana look black.
Bronze face?
I don't know. My wife was sitting in the room with me, and when I said, I think they're trying to make her look black, my wife goes, she's not black? I go, that's Lana from Lana and Rusev. And she's like, oh, she looks like a black chick.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to sit up there and say that she didn't or she didn't look different. I don't think.
She looked way different. They made her hair. They made her hair brown. They made her hair brown, and they listen. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm not accusing Lana of blackface, but I'm just saying she's racist.
She's gonna come up and have a farm next week.
You know how bad Tyson was this week in an angle? I'm gonna say that Rob Gronkowski was even worse. Anybody?
I didn't pay it that much attention. I mean,
well, it sucked.
It is what it is. I'm not saying it was promo of the year by any stretch of imagination. It kind of was like, okay, it's Gronkowski. Let's get the 24/7 title back. Let's move along. I could care less.
I know that Zach could care less, so I'm just going to move on.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Why are they calling this Edge Orton match the match of the year the greatest match? Why are they even saying that?
This is the dumbest thing.
Why would
they're calling it the greatest match of all time? And it is coming after one of the worst matches I've ever seen.
Oh, in WrestleMania, certainly, yes. Certainly the worst, like, in terms of expectations for a match at WrestleMania and delivery of the match at WrestleMania, the Edge-Orton match eclipses them all.
Wow.
It's like the cheeseburger you see on the commercial versus the cheeseburger you get in your drive-thru bag. Totally
Double
not
wow.
the same.
God damn,
Double
that is
wow.
fucking perfect, man. God, fucking English majors, right?
Right.
AJ Nakamura on SmackDown had a really cool finish, had a really cool modified Styles Clash. It sucks that Nakamura is just considered jobber to the stars because he beats everybody below him and he loses to everybody above him. That's all I'm going to say about that. Otis sucks. Mike and Miz. Hey, you said I'm the quarterback. You said I'm the quarterback, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm doing the quarterback sneak.
Okay.
No. Okay, Jason, what do you think about Miz and Morrison taking on Braun Strowman in a handicap match at Backlash for the belt?
That's a joke, man. I get it. You know, we're buying time, but I mean, they both. How you gonna have them both lose singles, or I shouldn't say singles matches? They both got pinned by Braun Strowman, but now we'll put them together so that that's the WWE logic. You figure it out. It's just a bad move. They're waiting until the Fiend comes back. I would assume after this match.
Well, he accepted their challenge, though. Morrison challenged him. I will say that the Miz and Morrison segment at the beginning of SmackDown was pretty funny this week.
No, and that's why I'm kind of getting frustrated, because now here's an opportunity where you could have either or legitimately make us run at the title, and then if it falls apart, so be it, but you still have that safety net just in case. You just put too many chips in the middle, and now you're going to have them both job out to Braun Strowman.
All right, Sheamus and Hardy. I will say the Forgotten Sons look like a Make America Great Again version of the Shield, which means they suck. Hey, we didn't talk about Shad Gaspard last week. It's a tragedy. He was a legit badass who used to legit fight people. He was by all accounts a really good guy backstage, a decent wrestler. He was in Crime Time Forever. Vince, instead of taking this guy who was a bare knuckle boxer and all this stuff, decided to put him in a tag team called Crime Time when they could have made him Kurt Angle or something like that. Any thoughts on Shad Gaspard, Jason?
For a guy that can't swim, this story just hits home, and the fact that he made sure his son got to safety first. Not saying that he couldn't swim, but that whole experience just really hit home for me. I almost drowned, so I can only imagine the panic, the terror that's actually going in a person trying to save himself and his son. So yeah. That to me is the biggest thing. The WWE part of it is WWE. I could care less in that scenario, but yeah, that to me is the biggest takeaway from hearing that story. Is for a guy that can't swim, I couldn't imagine trying to navigate something like that, trying to save my son at the same time.
And Zach, forgive me, I forgot the name of the young woman who killed herself this week.
Nakamura.
Yes. You guys want to talk about her for a second?
Yeah, I mean, the best way I could analogize her is she was such a rising star. She had such star power. She's not like the greatest worker in the world, but like she was always the one that you would remember, and she was only 22. I think kind of the best way to analogize her for those who might not be familiar with her is like, imagine if Velveteen Dream was cyberbullied to the point of suicide, right? That's like kind of like the best, superstar power. Had a lot of character. Fortunately, Velveteen Dream's probably less likely to die of suicide than he is police brutality, but I mean, that's neither here nor there.
Ouch.
Jason, talk about her wrestling for a second.
Yeah, I agree with you, Beer, because I was going to say I've been watching Stardom over the pandemic break, and she quickly jumped out to me as one of my favorite characters. Had her own faction, leader of the faction, Tokyo Cyber Squad, and just won one of their major tournaments. Had a match against B. Priestley for the title. Unfortunately, lost that. But all signs pointed up for her career and where she could possibly go into stardom, maybe being the top star in the company. So, yeah, hearing that really kind of fucked me up. I haven't watched Stardom since because I'm at a point where I know I'm going to run into one of those matches and I'm just not sure how I'm going to react to that. So it's one of those things where I kind of watch myself on Twitter because I know I can be very opinionated. So I just kind of just stick to my opinion, and if we just agree, we just agree. If we don't, just have to agree to disagree and walk away.
And one more RIP this week. That's George Floyd in Minneapolis. Everybody, Black Lives Matter. Hey, everybody, we got some birthdays this week. Seth Rollins is 34. The Brian Kendrick is 41. Nia Jax is 36. Hornswoggle is only 34. Jake the Snake Roberts is 65. Noah Jose is 32. Best of your future endeavors. Montez Ford is 30. James Storm is 43. AJ Styles is 43. Lex Luger is 62. Velvet Sky is 39. And Tim Thatcher is 37. Hey, everybody. We know there's lots of podcasts to listen to, so we appreciate you guys listening to our podcast for F&B Eatery. For 2 beers, Zach Bone.
Cheers.
For my wife.
Check.
And my cats and my dog.
Check.
For Jason Cornelius Bell.
Hey, R.I.P. Bills, a.k.a., by the way.
What?
See you all.
What, Rhetoric Flair?
Yeah, I thought it was actually pretty good.
No.
Everybody boo the heels!
Off camera.
Boo the heels! Hold on, I'm not stopped yet.